Hello everyone. Okay, so today we are going to be doing site translation. I'm going to get down into the topic. Now, site translation is when you are rendering documents or a translation orally from the text orally. Site translation is just as difficult as simultaneous interpretation, and it involves the same mental process. So your input is visual, which is the written word, rather than the oral spoken word, but the interpreter still has to process the thoughts in the source language and generate the target language version of that thought while simultaneously processing the next source language thoughts and so on. So because the message is written in black and white, some interpreters may have some trouble focusing and meaning rather than words. Reading comprehension is very important. It's a very important element inside translation. So you want to improve your reading comprehension in both languages. If you are working with a language A and language B, I've already explained what language A and language B and language C means. So I'm not going to go through that explanation again. So for your site translation, you need to improve and maintain your reading comprehension. And site translation is popularly used during court interpretation. So when you have a court case and you are invited to interpret, this is very, very common. Even in Abuja, it's still common. You just know that you're going to be doing a lot of site translation. So don't look at it like you've not gotten to the main deal. We've actually started the main deal. So you want to look out for some skills that you need to build while doing your site translation. The first thing you want to do is your delivery. It's very important that you communicate clearly with a proper intonation. You don't want to sound flat, and you need to use a very good voice modulation. A smooth pacing is very essential, so you can't just start and stop or make long pauses or make some mannerisms like and so on, like when we speak normally. If you listen to the way I'm speaking, most of the time I would have to pause a bit just so that I can get the next words I want to say. So you can see that I'm already taking great effort in not using mannerisms. Okay. So while the interpreter figures out a difficult translation or problem, it is a bit distracting for you to use all those mannerisms or for you to sound flat or for your intonation to be fluctuating up and down. Ideally, a side translation should sound as if you are just reading the document in the target language. The kind of text that you would likely meet are sometimes legal documents which might have some convoluted sentences or technical legal terms. They could be handwritten or typed. Then you also have some regular everyday text that can come from any register entirely. So try to obtain examples of both legal and handwritten documents in your second language and use these documents for your practice. So when you are doing site translation, that skill you want to learn, number two, is paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is helpful to develop your mental agility. It helps you to read ahead and to solve problems quickly, and also helps you to focus on the meaning rather than the words. When you're paraphrasing, you're going to avoid a lot of stilts, literal translation, and any other jargon. It's very good when you have a strong language B, maybe you have a B2 or a C1 level in that language. For if you are almost perfectly bilingual, paraphrasing is very good for you. But if you are not perfectly bilingual and you're still learning, I would advise that you just take your time before you start paraphrasing so you do not make too many mistakes. Moreover, paraphrasing is a good problem solving technique. If you have trouble translating a phrase in a site translation, just try to paraphrase it mentally in the source language first. Paraphrasing is a valuable learning tool and is a mental exercise, but you should never paraphrase when you are actually interpreting in a court. So you use it only when you are working on a document for outside the courts. But if you're in the courts, a court normally would need you to give proper content, directions, complete information. So you cannot paraphrase in a court. The third thing you want to do is conservation. This means you should conserve the register of the source text. For example, if the source text had a simple expression or a word, please do not change it into a formal expression or a word in the target text, and vice versa. It's very easy for you to see something formally written, then you now say it in a very simple way. I'll give an example. For example, we have a sentence: kindly provide assistance in the transfer of the attached letter to the appropriate authorities. Now, the appropriate authorities, as the word appropriate there is a formal expression. If you're now taking it into the language B, you are supposed to do a translation of that word in its formal context in the language B. So, since I'm using English as an example so everybody can understand, you cannot say, for example, in place of appropriate, you can't say proper or suitable. Okay? You can say, you can't say appropriate, you can't say proper. Transfer the attached letter to the proper authorities, or transfer the attached letter to the fitting authorities, but you can use suitable. Sorry, you can use suitable. So the appropriate or the correct formal expression that will work with this word is suitable. Okay? Use natural tones, natural intonations. Make use of your natural intonations. Like when you have punctuations, this will work out very well. So when you have your full stop, your commas, your semicolons, these are natural punctuations that you can use to modulate your intonation. Number 4 is that you have to grasp reading comprehension. I've mentioned this before, but I'm mentioning it again. So you have to practice reading comprehension every day of the week. Every day, at least 3, 4, 5 pages of reading comprehension, and practice your sight translation as often as possible. Number 5 is your prediction. Be able to predict the outcome of a complete message before you get to the end of the sentence. Number 6, you will want to have a complete command of the working languages at all levels of usage. So your language A should be very good up to a B2, the same thing with your language B, the same thing with your language C. Most times you're allowed to have a B1 in language C because you don't use it every time to interpret. Most times you're interpreting from your language C into your language A or B and not into the language C. So that does not mean you should not make any effort though. Number 6, have a good public speaking skill. Your voice projection, have clear enunciation, a good posture, and smooth pacing. This is not negotiable. So when you are speaking, people will be able to understand, because when you have a poor public speaking skill, or you have poor public speaking skills, it affects the way the listeners understand what you are saying. So you are saying the same thing, but your intonation is off the radar, and people will be struggling to understand you. Number 7, mental agility and flexibility. So you will be doing sight translation sometimes of several pages where you have to concentrate for up to 5-10 minutes. So if you are not mentally agile to concentrate for a long period of time, you could get exhausted and it will affect the quality of what you are producing. Now we are on to the process of sight translation. The first thing you would do is to scan the document to determine the subject matter, the context, the style, and the country of origin. Second, take a mental note of the common pitfalls that are unique to this language A. Third, skim the passages quickly and identify key features, comma, parentheses, new words and expressions that you are not very familiar with. Then quickly check them up if you have enough time. The fourth one, you translate sentence by sentence, focusing on one unit of meaning at a time. Then the fifth one, maintain a steady pace, translating as smooth as possible. I would advise that you do not start very fast. You can maintain an average pace so that you can continue that pace at the end of the translation. For your practice session, these are the strategies I would advise that you use before you do your assignments. One, translate as smoothly as possible. The next thing, look up and keep a glossary of any difficult terms. Then you practice out aloud always, with or without an audience. I would advise that you get an audience to practice with. It will motivate you to do better. Record yourself on an audio where you don't have somebody to practice with, and listen to the way you sound. So you do a playback so you know how you sound to your audience. Practice with a variety of documents and formats. You can use letters, conference documents, court transcripts, meeting reports, any kind of document that you know you would use to work. So practice with different types of documents. Last thing I'll mention is that as a site interpreter, you need to work on your public speaking skills. So you will be standing most of the time, maybe in front of an audience. This means you should be confident enough to talk in front of people without feeling overwhelmed. So you're going to stand in front of a mirror and read passages out aloud while recording what you are saying, preferably from a book, a newspaper, a magazine. Pay attention to your voice, okay? Your pitch, your tone, your hesitations, your sign projections, your posture, your enunciations, and try as much as possible to avoid pronunciations like ums, ah, and all those interjections that come in when it happens that you're a bit confused. When you get to the point where you are about to say it, you can take a pause, breathe in, make it look like it's deliberate, skim through quickly and continue. And if at any point you make a mistake, you pause, skip the mistake you made, and continue from the next sentence. It's better you finish up properly than to get embarrassed because of a mistake and stop midway while you are working. Halloween. It was a strange night. It was cold and there was a storm. I entered the school. I passed by the library and suddenly I heard a siffle and a shout of pain. I stopped. I was afraid at that moment. I decided to look for the source of the noise. I went straight ahead. And then I turned to the left. I opened the door of the changing room. Nothing. I looked in the nursery. Suddenly, a bed, a chair, and the medications. Then I climbed the stairs, and once more I heard a shout. I also heard the sound of footsteps. I arrived at the first floor and I stopped beside the music room. Right in front of me, I saw the billboard. It was an orange paper. I went to look at the paper. I did not understand the words therein. I decided to return to the ground floor. I passed by the computer room and suddenly I saw a witch in front of the maths room. This brings us now to the end of this exercise. This was done as a sample, so I can observe all the things I explained while explaining what site translation is all about and the skills you need to employ while doing it. So did you do yours? Let me know what you did in the comment section. And as I said, did you practice? Did you record yourself? Did you stand in front of the mirror? All of this will help you to build your self-confidence and avoid issues of the word flopping when you are working on site translation. Try and work with as many documents as possible, especially formal documents. You won't be doing informal documents technically. You'll be doing mostly formal documents more in your career. So work with formal documents. As I said, ensure you go through the document before you start so you don't get stuck while working. All right, so see you in the next lesson, and I'm looking forward to your comments on this class. Thank you.